In this example, we have to check whether the lines 3x minus 2y plus 6 equals 0 and the line 6y equals 4x minus 7 are parallel or perpendicular to each other. So whenever you see the words parallel or perpendicular, it means we're going to be talking about slope. So when you see those words in mathematics from now on, parallel or perpendicular, it means we're going to be investigating slope. Okay, so to get the slope of a line from the equation, we're going to try and get y on its own. Okay, we've been doing this a long time now, so let's do line 1 here. Line 1, which is 3x minus 2y plus 6 equals 0. To get the slope, we want to get y on its own. So move the 3x across. And if we move the 3x out of the way and the 6 out of the way, because you want y on its own, so everything else has to go to the other side of the equal sign. Move the 3x across, it becomes minus 3x. Move the 6 across, it becomes minus 6. And then we want to get y on its own, so we're going to divide by minus 2. Right, now if we divide everything here by minus 2, we can draw it in if you like. The minus 2's will cancel there, so that's just going to be y is equal to, a minus divided by a minus is a plus, but since it's at the start of this side of the line, we don't really need a plus. So it's going to be 3x over 2, and minus 6 over minus 2, and minus divided by a minus is a plus, 6 divided by 2 is 3. Now that's the equation of the line written in slope-intercept form, but the only part of it that we need is the slope. So let's highlight the slope here. The slope is whatever is attached to the x. So the slope is 3 over 2. So the slope of that first line is 3 over 2. Now, that's the first line done. Let's move on to the second line, 6y equals 4x minus 7. Okay, so line 2 has the equation 6y equals 4x minus 7. Now the y is already on its own, so this one's a little bit shorter. We can go straight to the dividing piece because y is already on its own. And if we divide both sides by 6 here, so that'll give you y on its own if you divide both sides by 6. Okay, the 6's will cancel and that gives you y is equal to 4x over 6. If you wanted to, you could reduce that fraction right now, but there's no need to do it just yet. 4 over 6x minus 7 over 6. So in this case, the slope, y is on its own. Once you've got y on its own, the slope is the bit that's attached to x. So the slope here is 4 over 6, and if you break that down, reduce that, divide top and bottom by 2, you get 2/3. Now they kind of look similar, okay? These slopes kind of look similar to one another. Beg your pardon, just give me 1 second to pick out a proper pen. These two slopes look similar to one another, but they're not identical, okay? So the slopes are not identical, which means the lines aren't parallel. Okay, not parallel. And then to check for perpendicularity, to check whether or not they're perpendicular to one another, we're going to multiply them together. If we get minus 1, then the two lines are perpendicular. So let's multiply them together. Okay, so the first one is 3 over 2, multiplied by the second one is 2 over 3. Okay, now it's a plus times a plus, which is plus. When we multiply in positives, we get a positive. On top, 3 times 2 is 6. On the bottom, 2 times 3 is 6. So that's plus 1. Now, they're only perpendicular if you get negative 1. Okay? But here, the product is not negative 1. So these lines are not parallel. Are not perpendicular. Okay, so multiplying them is the test for perpendicularity. If they multiply and give you minus 1, then the lines are perpendicular. But since we got plus 1, they are not perpendicular. Perpendicular means right angles. They don't meet at a right angle. Okay, and just to demonstrate that, I've drawn these two lines and I'll paste them here right now. Okay, so you see the two lines, and they're definitely not equal to -1. Okay, they're definitely not. Their slopes definitely do not give you a -1 product because they're neither parallel nor are they perpendicular. Okay, they're going to meet somewhere down here, and it's not going to be at a right angle. Okay, so that's how you do it. Find the slope of each line. If the slopes are exactly the same, they're parallel. If the slopes multiply together to give you -1, then they're perpendicular. If they multiply together and give you any other number, then they're not perpendicular. Okay? Thanks for watching.